Welcome to the Homesteading for Beginners podcast. This format for this show has been changing around a bit. I'm still trying to figure things out, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew what podcast you were coming to. I'm Mona Weathers, and this is the Homesteading for Beginners podcast. Today on the podcast, I will be talking with my friend Jasmine Bass about quail. So if you've wondered or interested at all in the topic of raising quail for eggs and meat, this is the episode for you. This is the beginning of a series I'm doing on small-scale homesteading, and I'll also be doing at some point a series on large-scale homesteading. But this interview kicks off the small-scale homesteading topic, and I'm not sure how long it'll go. It just depends on when I decide to stop interviewing and talking with people about this topic. Next month, we will also have it continue on. And in May, I will be starting to do the 2 episodes a week. I will do one solo episode on Tuesdays and one interview episode on Thursdays. And some of these episodes will be multiple part series. So in May, I have one particular interview that I'm doing over a 4-week period. So it's been tricky to try to get to where I want to be with this podcast, but I'm working towards it, trying to include more information for you in a faster manner. So that's the idea. So I hope you enjoy this interview today with my friend Jasmine Bass from Time and Timber Homestead. We are talking about quail. In 2020, when the world was shutting down, it was our first year here on this homestead in Georgia. And I was starting to feel very lonely because all of my homesteading friends were back in California. That's when I found a new startup app called Clubhouse. And this is an audio app. And because I was in a new state and a new home, far away from all my homesteading friends, it became a very difficult time for me because I didn't have community. And I talk a lot about community on this podcast. This social app had all of these people, the social audio app had all of these people talking about things I like to talk about. There were things other people were talking about other things as well. But I like to talk about, all the homesteading things like gardening and raising livestock and fermenting food and all that. And I found people who also like to talk about it. I mean, we would talk for hours sometimes on these subjects. And I found my community. I found my online homesteading community. And I still have good relationships with a lot of those people that I met in 2020. And my guest today is Jasmine Bass, who I met on Clubhouse. And she is one of those people that this is the first time for us seeing each other like face to face or virtually face to face. But we feel like we know each other because of all of those hours that we spent talking on Clubhouse. There's just something different about an audio app, and it was very unique. And while we haven't been very active on Clubhouse anymore, we don't have, regular rooms anymore. I have fond memories of all of the hours that we spent talking and getting to know each other and helping other people. Yeah. And so I'm excited actually for my listeners to meet you because they need to know the awesome person you are, the knowledgeable person you are. So hello, Jasmine. This is, I'm really excited that you're here.
I'm excited too, and I have the same fond memories. And I don't know, it was definitely a God thing. I think with our whole connection with that app, I have some solid friendships from that, including with you. And I'm so excited to be here and not only supporting what you're doing, which I think is incredible, but also, meeting some of your audience. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I know we're going to get into a topic that I have been, I've been talking about getting quail for a while now. So, and that I've been talking about getting quail for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very close.
Okay.
I have to get I have to get everything put together, like, the quail enclosure and all that. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this subject because there's a lot of people who are listening to this podcast who are either, so I have my audience is homestead dreamers and new homesteaders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a lot of people are in the stage where they haven't even really started yet, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just thinking about it. And I'm
Right.
trying to give people options based on a small scale homestead situation, which it could
Mm-hmm.
include just your backyard, your,
Right.
suburban backyard, or,
Mm-hmm.
and then large scale homesteading options as well, which we'll get. So this part, we're talking more on the small scale,
Yes.
but and I know quail happen to be like a really, really good first start and for small scale. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I'm excited to get in that conversation. But first, can you tell our listeners a little bit about you,
Sure.
where you are homesteading, and how you got started?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I homestead in Southwest Missouri. We've been homesteading for about 10 years. Um, and I used to use that word loosely because I really felt like I wasn't qualified with my garden and bees to say I was homesteading. But I really feel like that's a mindset. And like if you're doing things towards learning skills towards self-sufficiency and like growing your own food, taking care of the land, no matter how big or small you have, like that's part of homesteading. So we've been doing that for 10 years. I started off with learning how to do natural medicine, and that kind of thrusted me into having my own garden, starting to look into what I was putting into my soil, which led me to connecting with other homesteaders and getting like chicken manure and rabbit manure. And I was like, maybe I could do this myself. And so we've been doing the homestead thing consistently on this homestead for 5 years. We started off with bees, got our chickens and all the fowl, and had a lot of losses, which brought us to some of the other animals that we could work with on our homestead. And now we have a blossoming homestead that sometimes is a little overwhelming with just two people doing it. But
Mhm.
we've got, goats and bees and rabbits and turkeys and geese and all the things, chickens and quail are some of my absolute favorite to have on the homestead, and I can't imagine not ever having them because of their simplicity, the space that they don't need, which is amazing, and how easy I can keep them protected. And because we do a lot of stuff on our homestead for food preservation, that's another one of those things that I felt comfortable handling, processing for meat too. So, but
Mhm.
that's a little bit about us. We have lots of pets and
Mhm.
stay connected in our community as much as possible. And yeah, so that's me
That's awesome.
in our
Th-
homestead.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
I know about your, all the poultry you have. What made
Mhm.
you like, well, because we've had conversations. So you had,
Sure,
I
sure.
remember when you got the geese, I remember when you got the geese and the turkeys and,
Yes.
that sort of thing. So what made you go into quail? Because so my desire to get into quail has to do with what you mentioned, like a meat source,
Hmm.
the small space, that sort of thing. But like, who introduced you to the idea, and why did you like decide to go that way?
So it was a complete fluke. And Mona knows me well enough to know that I get animals before I'm prepared. And I'm a fly by the seat
Same
of my
here.
pants homesteader.
Mhm.
So actually, in conversations on this social media app that we're talking about, the social audio app, Clubhouse, Larry Wheeler, who has a homestead, he actually relocated to over here in Missouri and
Yep.
works with Baker
He's
Creek
gonna
Beef.
be He's
Huh?
actually going to be on the podcast as well. I have him
I'm
scheduled.
so excited. So
Mhm.
he at the time had a very small urban homestead space in Virginia, and I kept hearing the sound in the background of his
I
conversations.
remember
I was like, Larry, what is that noise? And he's like, oh, those are my quail. I was like, oh, quail. So, in a couple conversations and listening to other people who also had Coturnix quail, I was like, that sounds like something fun. But I didn't pursue it until I did a swap. I had somebody on a Facebook marketplace, Homestar Swap group, say, hey, I'm looking for turkey poults, turkey eggs. I was like, I have turkey poults, I have turkey eggs. What do you
Mhm.
want? And she said something about having Coturnix quail eggs. So we did a swap, and
Mm.
the rest is history. I went in deep, deep, deep. And so now we're at the point where I have an online course about quail keeping,
Wow.
and I have a pretty thriving, the quail pay for a lot of the animals that I have on my homestead now. So it really wasn't a well thought out plan, but I am so, so glad that I took a chance on them. And now that I understand the benefits, I can't believe I never heard about them before.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So it's share some of those benefits. It's funny I think I knew that about Larry, and I remember those those the quail in the background.
yes.
They were loud too. It was his kids or the quail. Like you could
Yes,
hear.
exactly. And I loved it. And that's
Mhm,
one of those things where I was like, oh, I could do this. They sound kind of like
mhm.
songbirds. So,
Yeah.
the type of quail that I'm talking about are domestic Japanese quail. They're also called Coturnix, which is a tongue twister to say if you're not used to saying it.
Mhm,
And so they're a little bit different than the native birds in the United States, where we have like valley quail, California quail, bobwhite quail. Those are completely different species.
mhm,
Those are called New World quail. So these are old world quail that were imported from Japan in the late 1800s, early 1900s to the Americas. And they are particularly useful for a production bird for both meat and eggs. And, the eggs are like a third of the size of a chicken egg.
mhm,
They are super nutrient packed though, and for me, I found out that I have a chicken egg allergy. Did a lot
mm,
of blood work and all these different tests, and I couldn't eat chicken eggs. And so the quail eggs I had no issues with. They didn't flare up any of my health issues,
mm,
and they were just a huge blessing for me to be able to cook with. Um, they are production like chickens. If you get laying chickens, the hens of these quail lay consistently every single day about 300 to 320 eggs a year, which is
Wow.
incredible.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they to me they're considered production animals.
Right.
And they start laying as early as 6 weeks old, usually
Okay.
about 8 weeks old, which is also incredible because that time from being a chick
Right.
to laying egg is so short compared to 4 to 6 months with chickens.
Right. That's where I'm at. Like I need to
Yeah,
add more. I need to add more birds because we went from 17 to we have 8 now.
exactly.
And
You have lots of mouths to feed.
right, not more mouths to feed and all that. And I'm like, okay, I either have to wait 6 months is usually,
Yeah,
6 months is usually unless you get the leghorns.
right.
6 months is usually the amount of time. I have to wait six
Hmm.
months and do all of the transferring, or I
Right.
can wait 2 months.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the cool thing about quail is they, unlike chickens, they do not like to free range. So
Mhm.
they captivity is where they shine, which is a huge benefit for me because we were dealing with a lot of losses with our chickens due to free ranging or like even
Mhm.
just having fencing around them. We were having predators come in and kill our animals, our birds. And so with
Mhm.
the quail, they do best in confinement because they don't have that same homing device at dusk to go into a hiding
Mhm.
spot and like rest for the night.
Mhm.
They are like they go all day long. They never stop moving. So having a space where it's either on the ground with a full aviary around them or stacked hutches for them is ideal for these birds, which makes them perfect for small spaces and even
Mhm.
apartments. People have had them in their apartments in small stacked cages where they have like a good amount of space, but the confinement is where these birds shine, which I really can appreciate, especially when you
Mhm.
don't have ways to protect your animals. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, there's so many good things about well, we will get to the cons because I talk
Yes,
about the
there.
pros and I want to
Yes.
hear the cons because I want people to understand what could happen on the negative
Absolutely.
side if you get them. So, but
Absolutely.
you mentioned breeds. So,
Hmm.
is the Coturnix like I've heard of the jumbo
Yeah.
whatever, what are those?
So
Like which one?
there are lots of color variations when it comes to Coturnix. So there is no breed, like we have breeds of chickens, and that can change the egg color or the meat taste or whatever the case is, and the plumage. With Coturnix, it's just Coturnix. They all have the same meat and egg production, but there is a size variance, which is jumbo or standard. So these are small birds, right? So the standard birds are usually around 8 to 10 ounces as an adult bird, which isn't huge, but the jumbos can go anywhere from 10, they average about 14 ounces, which is almost a pound, which is a very big bird for the type of quail that they are. So my jumbos that I keep, I like them around 14 ounces, and that gives me about an 8 to 10 ounce carcass to, cook. But the plumage, there are several dozen varieties of plumage, and that makes them very fun because you can have all these fun colored birds. You're not stuck to just the wild type, which is the pharaoh, which most people, when you look at a picture of Coturnix quail, you see a brown bird with a rusty chest and like the gold stripes down the back. And that's that native from their original color. That's the wild type, but there's so many fun plumages to work with.
Okay. I didn't realize they were the same bird. I thought they
Yeah.
were all different. I thought it was like chickens. I mean, you have
Yeah,
the wild ones like California quail and stuff that are different breeds, right?
absolutely. Yep.
But I didn't realize what I was looking at was just different variations of Coturnix.
Yep.
I didn't realize that. I love
Most
learning
people
new
don't
things.
realize it, but it's so fun. It's so
Yeah.
fun. And that allows you, like, you can have them, I have breeder sets that I will sell to new homesteaders. And if they want a variety, it's wonderful because they are the same species, the same breed. And so the color variations doesn't matter what you're breeding together. You can have all these fun colors and plumage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the egg colors are,
Yeah,
I know that they vary a lot too. Does that have anything to
sure.
do with the color of the bird itself?
No, it does
Hmm.
not. So
Okay.
there are, for those who are looking on a video, there are these beautiful brown speckled eggs,
Hmm.
and they are the standard egg for quail. They all have different speckling patterns
Okay.
on a tan or off-white cream egg, and
Hmm.
those are just beautiful. But then there is a blue, which is called
Hmm.
celadon, and that blue egg it's somewhat like if you get into goats and there's polled goats that have no horns, you have to
Hmm.
have two copies from parents
Right.
to create a baby with these blue egg laying, but there's no outward marker for these. So if you want blue eggs, you have to talk to a Coturnix breeder who has what's called celadon layers, and they'll be able to set you up with homozygous celadon gene. But
Okay.
that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But the eggs taste the same between the different colors. It does not matter. Like, wild type can lay blue eggs or brown eggs, vice versa. You just have to have the gene. So the eggs taste
Okay.
exactly the same. The birds are all the same. They just have a special gene on them. Yep.
Okay. And the jumbos, do they lay the larger eggs? Is that the idea as well?
They do
Like,
lay larger eggs as well, and I find that the jumbos are slightly lower on the production level, so they're going to
mm,
be more in the mid 200 eggs per year
okay.
compared to the standards. And I also find when it comes to reproductive side that the males need a few less hens because they are a lot larger and they have a
Mm,
harder time mounting the hens to be able to fertilize the eggs. So
okay.
they're great. A lot of people love them. And I have some, but I like my standards the best for production for eggs.
Is your do you use the ones for eggs as well for meat? Like, is the standard Coturnix your favorite bird all around for eggs and meat?
Yes, just
Hmm.
because of how quickly I can get them produced. So,
Okay.
what I have is two separate aviaries because there is a demand for jumbos. I find
Hmm.
that the standards, they eat a little bit less food per day, and the weight difference as a processed bird for meat is only an ounce or two because I have slightly larger standards. So for me, I would rather have the fun colors and the egg production for my meat source as well over having less egg production and only a couple ounces more in meat and a lot more food consumed to make those birds a lot bigger. So,
okay, I see. That's the end of part 1 of this 2-part series. Come back next week or go straight to episode 39 for the second part of the series where Jasmine shares a little bit more about raising quail. If you want to learn more about what Jasmine has going on, check the show notes. There are links there, including the quail course that she mentioned is also in there. There's a link to that. So come back next week and listen to the rest.